Councilmember Redmond. Here. Councilmember Collins.
Here.
Councilmember Stearns is absent. Mayor Pro Tem Stackfleth. Here. Mayor Kleur.
Here. Okay, is this on? Can you guys hear me? No.
No. Hello.
Hello.
No.
Item number 3, we're going to have a special presentation from Amanda Berryhill. Come on up to the podium. I have packets for everyone. Is there a way that I'm supposed to? Okay, and I did send these ahead of time for them to be on the screen for the audience as well as for those on Zoom, if that's available. If not, at least you guys have it in front of you. Okay. Well, I will go ahead and start. Can you hear me okay? Is the mic working? Okay. Good evening, council members. My name is Amanda Berryhill. I'm the project director for the Smoke-Free High Country project of the California Health Collaborative. We are funded by the California Department of Public Health's Tobacco Branch to provide education and help advocate for tobacco prevention in Siskiyou County. I want to mention that we are also partners with other tobacco programs such as Public Health and Siskiyou Office of Education. These programs have long provided education to the community, specifically youth, parents, and educators. While my project does those things as well, it's also meant to provide education and resources to community leaders such as yourselves. Tonight, I'd like to start with a snapshot of the tobacco retail environment in Mount Shasta, which is the first, looks like that one in your packet. Hoping that works on the screen there. This data was collected in summer of 2021, so I want to note that some things may have changed in the last 2 years. First, we have 5 tobacco retailers. 4 of those are within 1,000 feet of a school. 80% of the stores sold single cigars, such as Swisher Sweets. The reason we note this is because for a long time, these are the starter products that a lot of young people would start with. They have come in singles or small packs of 3. They were often flavored. There was a lot of different flavors. Things may be different. It's actually the other one that we're on right now. Thank you. That may be different now because California has the flavor ban. But these are still sold for less than $1 for maybe 3, or like $1.20 for 3 of them. So these were often a starter product. 80% of the stores had tobacco price promotions. So that's like a discount, 2 for 1, buy one, get one free, that sort of a thing. And then on the right side of this, you can see the stats about Mount Shasta. A few notable things there is that in Siskiyou County, we have a 22% tobacco use rate, whereas the state of California as a whole has a 12% tobacco use rate. So we're getting close to double. When I shared the youth use rate with educators and parents, they told me that there's no way that it's that low, which is a little concerning. From what I hear, it seems like the majority of youth 6th grade and up are using tobacco products. This percentage here is self-reported, and it's a regional number for this area. Lastly, there's the county health ranking, which ranks Siskiyou County at the bottom 2 of the least healthy counties in the state. Now, before I get into the rest of the data on this form, I want to share what these numbers mean and why they're so important to understanding tobacco and health of the community. These reasons, we look at what products are available and where they're sold is to know how accessible these products are, specifically to youth, as most tobacco users start at a young age. We look at price promotions because we know that tobacco industry spends 70 to 80% of their advertising budget on this. Just for reference, the California marketing budget for the tobacco industry is $485 million a year. We also know that coupons and advertisements make these products seem more appealing, less harmful, and socially normal. We look at the price of tobacco because we know that the tobacco industry tries to lower the price to keep people hooked and target youth as well as those with lower income. The last section of data on this profile is the opinions. We collected this data when we started our project in 2020. The reason was to get baseline feelings from people about tobacco and the retail environment. While we collected these all over Siskiyou County, not just Mount Shasta, We can see some of the data here. 78% agree that cheap tobacco products make it easier for youth to try them. 59% support setting a higher minimum price for tobacco products. And 57% support the ban of discounts and selling small pack sizes. It's really great to see that in this county we have a majority of support for tobacco policies. I do believe that now we have even more support because during the month of June, our partner, Siskiyou County Resource Collaborative, collected endorsements for tobacco retail policies in Mount Shasta. These are all signed, and they were collected at community events and meetings. These were in Mount Shasta. They are in favor of tobacco retail policies. If you turn to that second handout there, that starts with policymakers, right here. It has some of the facts that I've already shared about tobacco, the importance of the issues with discounts, tobacco industry influence, but the most important information I would say is on the back of this. It talks a lot about what we can do to prevent tobacco use and the tobacco industry influence. According to the CDC, for every 10% increase in the price of cigarettes, adult smoking decreased by 3 to 5%, and youth smoking decreased by 6 to 7%. Now, this statistic is for cigarettes, but I think we can assume that it would have the same effect on other tobacco products, including vaping, chewing products, all these new nicotine products that are on the market. Increasing the price deters people from starting to use tobacco products, encourages people to quit, and reduces overall consumption. Historically, the price increase has been through taxation, giving the money back to the government. But what cities and counties can do is set a minimum floor price for tobacco retailers in the city that would increase the price of tobacco. That increased cost would be returned to the retailer, making an additional profit on these products. However, the additional costs would deter people from purchasing these products, so retailers would see a decline in sales over time. This is different from things like the recent flavor ban that California has. That was a sudden decrease in sales and drop off in sales for our retailers, but this would be a more gradual one. This allows retailers time to replace these products with healthier ones and products that have a high profit margin. This policy is typically coupled with minimum pack size so that no one's buying like a single Swisher Sweet for $15 or so. And this policy would need to state that they cannot accept coupons or discounts because that's what the tobacco industry does to combat higher prices. They would flood the area with coupons and discounts. This type of policy is best paired with promotion of tobacco treatment options. Our project is working to educate healthcare and behavioral health providers to offer treatment and encourage quit attempts, as well as our media campaign to promote free resources that are available. These things combined could have a very positive effect on the health of our community. I'd be happy to provide additional information and resources on the policy itself. In your packet, that thick amount of paper there, I think it's like 20 pages, is a model policy. It's just a starting place that can be used. And I am available for one-on-one meetings and additional presentations to discuss this further. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. Does anyone on council have any questions for Amanda? Just wanted to reiterate that so there's a two-part question. One is the city of Mount Shasta can implement the ban of or setting a minimum price for retailers.
Correct.
And then that minimum price wouldn't directly affect the retailers at the beginning. It would only happen if the usage were to decrease over time.
Correct, yes.
Okay.
And so what this policy typically looks like is something called a tobacco retail license. The city would determine what the fee would be for that, and retailers in the city of Mount Shasta would apply for the license. That fee would pay for enforcement, as well as whatever time that you need from staff to review the applications and things of that sort. And so that's determined by the city, what the minimum price is, pack size, and what that fee would be to cover all that.
Wonderful. Any other comments? Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right, we are moving on to agenda item number 4, which is public comment. Anyone wishing to speak on an agenda item, something that is not on the agenda item, please come on up.
Thank you. I realize that the vote for this meeting won't be for the motion to eliminate the 2-hour parking on the north side of Castle Street between Chestnut and the First Alley.
Can we,
That-
could you get a little closer to the mic and state your name? And
Oh, Nancy Jandro.
Okay, we might need to turn up the volume a bit too.
Okay. I want to go on record that since the last meeting, there has been an increase of all-day parking on the north side of Castle Street between Chestnut and the First Alley in the downtown business districts. This is not a personal issue for this. This is a business issue to help the downtown business core. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Hi, Betty Krieger. Whoops, you need to reset the clock. I didn't start at 2 minutes. Thank you. I have noticed that there's an extreme amount of collection of something in front of the pipeline where it's made the pavement, the sidewalk in front of the pipeline, really, really filthy. And I think what happened was when we had the outdoor dining for the last couple of years, that when the waitresses and waiters are bringing food and drinks in and out, some get spilled and trampled on, and so it just gets ground in. Next door at Sparky's, they put a long pad, pad in front of it sideways, and it kept that from happening in front of the actual door. There's a little bit, not anything really outlandish, that goes past that into where the seating area is, but it still could be cleaned up. But the real concern I have is the real destructive stuff that's in front of the pipeline. So if somebody from the city could go and ask them to please clean that up, maybe give them a timeline to make that happen, because it's been there for a really, really long time. Thanks.
Thank you.
Hi, Stephen Bryan with the Siskiyou Community Resource Collaborative and the Mount Shasta Community Resource Center. And another hat I wear, I'm the chair of the Tobacco Education Council, so I'm here to support Amanda and all the great work Smoke-Free High Country does in the North State. It's including the downtown Mount Shasta smoking ban and also at college campuses, so just want to support Amanda. I'm here actually on another thing. In 2 days, we're having our free ice cream social. We do this every year at Shasta Park. So I just want to make sure that everybody's aware of this. It's Wednesday night, 5:30 to 7. Come make some new friends or have ice cream with old friends right here in Mount Shasta. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And can we just watch the clock, because I think he started a little lower on. Okay, thank you. Anyone else in the audience wish to speak on an item not on the agenda? And anyone online? Okay, Mr. Patel, begin when ready.
Week, he explained to me these funds would be used in hiring a city planner to help with the economical development of the town. While I agree to some degree.
I'm sorry, could you start over? We were having some tech difficulties, so we couldn't hear you, and we'll start our clock over on this end too.
Okay.
Thank you.
It's all good. All right. Hello, my name is Heaton Patel. Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Okay. I'm the owner of A1 Choice Inn Motel, and I would like to take this time to speak about the potential increase of 2% in TOT. I want to give insight from an owner's perspective, who's in the trenches. Last week, I had a great conversation with Todd. He explained to me these funds would be used in hiring a city planner to help with the economical development of the town. While I agree to some degree, in order for a city or a town to grow and be sustainable, we must reinvest into the town in the right departments. And the consensus may be, and the most plausible solution from a bird's eye view, maybe to increase the TOT. However, I do not believe this is the correct solution because of the instability in our current economical environment. The mass tech layoffs among FANG, which is Facebook, Apple, Amazon, Netflix, Google, started a domino effect to tech businesses of all sizes, which led to more layoffs. This directly affects our community. Salaries and spending has been cut, and our community should be very aware of that situation because that's where a high percentage of our travelers come from. Muriel mentioned earlier this week that the last fiscal year, earlier she mentioned last fiscal year had the highest TOT revenue. I can attest to that. My motel experienced our highest revenue ever. However, we also experienced our highest expenses as well. Every single line item has gone up, including room supplies. We're talking coffee, soap, cups, toilet paper, the business supplies, laundry detergent, cleaning solutions, replacing sheets, phone lines, any software we're using, such as property management systems and QuickBooks, and labor as well. We have no say, just an email informing us that costs will go up. Flowers we bought last year for $3 each have gone up to $9 this year. We raised our rates to exceed expenses, and we are one of the most inexpensive motels out of the 11 in town. Yet we still lost travelers stating they will keep driving until they find something cheaper, or from the guests that do have stayed, we received negative reviews. They expected more from us, which hurts our online presence and overall business. Expenses are higher than ever. The labor pool is weak in the customer service industry. I interviewed a candidate, and they wanted $40 an hour and weekends off. Some hotels are ahead of the pack, but I believe most are on the cusp of failure and solely rely on tourism between Memorial Weekend and Labor Day weekend, which supports us through the winter. Raising taxes will have negative consequences on consumer behavior. They will expect a certain standard, not just from motels, but from restaurants in Mount Shasta as a whole as well. I don't believe we have the resources in the current economic environment or the labor pool to provide that. Restaurants already close early or are overwhelmed by demand due to inadequate staff as is. Have we discussed alternate compromising solutions? How about raising taxes by 1%? Or can we use a cliff investing strategy where we raise rates by 0.25% per year over 8 years until we reach 2%? How about this may be a double-edged sword for motels, but how do we open permits for short-term rentals on housing? Maybe we cap it at 14 days versus 30 days so we don't completely cripple the motel industry. I understand I'm about to run out of time, but these are just solutions that ballpark solutions. But thank you for your time, and I hope we can discuss this on a deeper level. Thank you.
Thank you. And we will be discussing this agenda item at item number 10 tonight. Yes, of course.
Hey, as per our conversation, stick around for the agenda item so we can discuss this further. But please make sure that you file a argument directly with the county with the pamphlet that I gave you. And if you need help with that, come on in and I'll help you with it.
Get it. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Do we need a short recess until? Yeah. Okay. Okay. From Zoom? Yeah. Anyone else online wishing to speak? Okay. And last call for anyone in the audience wishing to speak on a non-agenda item. All right, we will close public comment, move on to council and staff comments. Todd, would you like to start us off?
Yeah, so I just want to hit some public works related stuff. So the Pine Street project is done. The sewer intercept project is complete. The wastewater treatment plant, we're filling the tanks, and so essentially we're doing QC, which is just standard operating procedure, but essentially we're done there. And finally, the Oak Street project will be starting next month.
Chief, anything? Council?
I want to say that we had the second annual Handsome John's Watson's Vets Club charity golf tournament for the athletic boosters, which is why I still have no voice from Saturday. But we started this in lieu of helping them out when we outlawed the fireworks sales, and we were able to raise $5,000 for them on Saturday. So next year we will have the third annual inaugural, as we call it.
Better warm up that vocal cord before
Yeah,
next
I
year.
know. I'm still depleted. Anyways, but yeah, it was a good time, and yeah, we raised $5,000 for them, so hopefully more
Awesome.
next year. So.
Well done. Any other council comments? Okay. Moving on to committee updates.
Committee updates. The only thing we have, DEAC, at their request, canceled last month. We're reconvening Wednesday.
All right, moving on to consent agenda. Item number 7, the city manager recommends approval of the following consent agenda items. All resolutions and ordinances on this agenda or added hereto shall be introduced or adopted as applicable by title only, and the full reading thereof is hereby waived. This is the shortest consent agenda I've ever seen. Item A, approval of minutes, July 10th, 2023, regular city council meeting.
Move to approve consent agenda item A.
I don't think your mic's on.
Move to approve consent agenda item A by title only.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 All opposed? Passes 4-0. Okay, and next, agenda item number 8, approval of request for proposals, RFP for library services. Todd, kick her off.
Yes. With all the dust up and the issues related to, the library contract, what we've done is revamp the last RFP going out for library director services and a team. And I rewrote that, sent it to the Friends of the Library and LTAC, and sat down with them, and they had extensive rewrites. What you're seeing is the consensus of all of their comments. And that's it in a nutshell. If we approve it tonight, they've given me a list of places that they would like to see this posting placed.
Any questions from council? All right, we will open up for public comment. Anyone wishing to speak on this agenda item, come on up.
Betty Krieger, you said in the agenda item that the contract was not renewed for Courtney due to, quote, ongoing performance-related issues. I believe that's cruel, given you offered no actual evidence. Why not just say her contract wasn't renewed, thus an RFP is required? When I spoke out against Todd's performance on another matter, Tessa, you said your job was to protect him. No, it's not. Your job is to hold him accountable. Your job is to seek the truth by considering all points of view. You did not do that, neither did LTAC. Tessa, you told Skip that Courtney was not, quote, not compliant with her contract in several areas and was unwilling to address these deficiencies, end quote. You never attended a single LTAC meeting, yet you regurgitate those accusations without any firsthand knowledge or getting Courtney's input. Twice a year, Courtney attended LTAC meetings for 7 years, during which she gave detailed updates, made presentations, assisted on the new library plans, and responded to many questions. Not once was she admonished that she was not doing her job or that she had ongoing performance issues. In fact, her opinions were often sought. If LTAC had issues with her performance, they should have addressed specifics and provided her an opportunity to make adjustments. During my 2.5 years working with her on LTAC, I observed 0 performance issues. Dennis never called a committee meeting to discuss any of these alleged performance issues that suddenly appeared 3 months ago. in a closed-door meeting without Courtney. What changed? Cheryl Bauer joined the LTAC. At the April and October meetings, I felt Cheryl was not only disrespectful in her questioning of Courtney, but borderline hostile toward her. I believe she instigated the effort to get rid of Courtney. My opinion and her performance issues was a ruse to do that because, one, Courtney put out information on the public displays that did not conform to official narratives, which they immediately dismantled when she left. Cheryl was not satisfied with just being president of Friends of the Library, so joined LTAC to exert more control. After the 2022 April meeting, Cheryl asked me to have a private lunch meeting with her. I declined due to my health problems. But I did not trust her after seeing how she treated Courtney. Did she have other private meetings? Did Dennis? While all of this was going on, Courtney was doing what she loved. She prepared for the story time and had just had a huge successful library event April 29th. Then, without the promised performance review, she was summarily dismissed with no opportunity to say goodbye. Every one of you has hurt Courtney in unimaginable ways that in your lack of compassion and lack of integrity, you cannot possibly comprehend. But knowing her as I do, she will rise above it all.
Thank you. Anyone else wish to speak to public comment on this issue?
Mount Shasta. Okay, I am more in a personal way.
Can you speak into the mic?
I would just like to state, I've been here 7 years. I believe Courtney's been here 7 years. I can't swear by that. I've had an amazing experience at the library. She's put things out there that I might have not had an opportunity to check out. And sometimes her voice is opposite of the mass group. I like to study things. I like to see both sides of the picture, and Courtney allowed that. I don't know if anybody knows what the Restrict Act is. No, not many people do. Courtney put that information out there. I'm still concerned with what the Restrict Act is. One thing it says is that it creates a blanket authority with few checks to ban just about anything linked to a foreign adversary. So they're trying to pass this. And as far as I know, they have not passed it yet, but I could be wrong on that too. When there's things happening in our government, I want to know about it. And if somebody like Courtney can put it out there, whether we're looking at COVID, whether we're looking at government, I want to know about it. So I particularly appreciate what she's done. And I don't know what all basis you have decided to make this decision, but I just hope you'll think about it and give her the opportunity, because as far as I know, she was amazing. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else in the audience wish to speak?
Robert Genucitis. And so I'm fairly new to this, this whole issue. I'm actually fairly new to town. And what I have learned about it and how she's been treated is quite disturbing. I mean, it seems as though there's basically no good reason as far as her performance goes. Everybody I know, people I know who've lived here for a very, very long time and who know her, very well, basically have nothing but stellar things to say about her. And so what it appears to me is happening here is just some sort of personal vendetta. I don't know how else somebody can describe it, because somebody who is basically, from what I've heard from pretty much everybody I've talked to about this issue, that she's just such a stellar person just in general, but as far as the library goes, she's just gone above and beyond to make sure that there's information for everybody and and not be, censoring things that maybe not be popular or whatever. And from what I hear, one of the things that is most at issue here is this table that she had set up concerning the things that have happened in the last 3 years over that whole issue. And I don't even want to say its name because we all know what the name of it is. And so apparently she had set up a table with some very reasonable and very actually well-researched information about that whole thing. And somehow that appears, from what I've heard, that appears to be one of the main issues as to why she's been attacked, because she decided to put this information out to people to make their own decisions as to really what is the best thing to how to address that whole thing. But I mean, it seems to me that the work that she has done in 7 years has just been amazing. I mean, I don't know her. I've never met her personally, but I hope I do get to meet her personally because I'm just so amazed by the work that she has done. So the way she's been treated here seems just awful, and I don't think we as human beings, and I feel that we all have, real human hearts, real human feelings. And I mean, if I was the subject of what she's been subjected to, I'm sure I'd be completely devastated. But I mean, thank God, it sounds like she has a lot of people who support her and really care for her and to help her through all this. And I hope that you all reconsider this whole decision that you guys have done. So I guess that's it. But thank you so much for your time, and I appreciate it.
Thank you. Anyone else from the audience wish to speak? Okay, anyone online?
Our first online speaker will be Vicki Gold.
Okay, Vicki, begin when ready.
Thank you. So I'm going to ask you all to imagine giving your heart and your soul to your job and your community, living, breathing, imagining, and creating a huge grant for $5 million, and then being maligned and dismissed. Courtney was promised to have her contract continued until the end of summer by Dennis. He reneged on this offer. What happened? I didn't know about the Restrict Act. I was uninformed about this until public testimony tonight. That's just one of the many things that Courtney stayed on top of. She is an amazing source. I've worked with her personally for years. She is of the highest ethics and standards. This is really absolutely shocking to the community that she's being treated this way. And I ask you, what is a library? It's a collection of ideas and information and resources and a meeting place for the community. And then I ask you, what is the First Amendment? Does she have no rights to put up an alternative to the official narrative? She's followed every American Library Association protocol. What importance is there involved in selection of words to describe a reason for your action? Because I ask you, what is inferred or implied malfeasance of duty? When is an apology essential? Why are no facts being presented regarding the termination of librarian services contract? All we see and hear are innuendos, inferences, and no clarity. This is pure mud. This is not professional. It is not humane. It is not worthy of our community. I'm actually embarrassed for the city council. I'm embarrassed for LTAC. I'm embarrassed for our city manager, who admitted in the LTAC meeting that he didn't know anything about it. He was just following the guidance of LTAC. I don't want to accuse anybody, but I did note that in the second meeting, many of the members thanked those who showed up, 25, 30 people supporting Courtney, and said that it did help them. And then they perfunctorily said she could apply for the grant, for the RFP. And how would you feel applying for an RFP that is basically just what you would have agreed to anyway had you been given an opportunity to discuss the issues? 7 years, They were to meet 4 times a year. They only met twice. Each time she presented them with all of the information about how busy this library is compared to all the other libraries. As busy as any 3. Shame.
Thank you, Vicki. Anyone else online wish to speak? Anyone else in the audience wish to come up? Okay, we will close this portion of public comment and bring it back to council discussion. Or motion.
So mine's more of a question, but I think it's already been answered by the speaker, the prior speaker. So Courtney can apply for this contract, right? She can respond to the RFP without prejudice? Okay.
This issue has had a lot of people upset to various degrees. Everybody that's spoken, either at this meeting or others, have been on the planet long enough that we've had enough jobs that over time, there's just a mismatch between the employee and the employer. It happens a lot. Courtney was a valued independent contractor whose contract was simply not renewed. And there's a lot of conversation about, is it this, is it that, should we be upset? And the answer is, folks, sometimes over time there develops a simple mismatch between employer and employee. That's all that occurred. And I just wanted to take a moment to try and put some perspective on it.
Thank you. Any other discussion before we move forward?
All right, with no further ado, I will move to approve a request for proposal to hire a library director and staff to manage the Mount Shasta Library. This is not a resolution-oriented item, so there you have it.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
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 All opposed? Passes 4-0. Okay, discussion, or agenda item number 9, discussion possible action regarding the parking restriction on East Castle Street. Before we dig into this, we received a plea from Councilmember Stearns, who couldn't be here tonight, that we postpone this agenda item to the following, I believe it's August 14th meeting. So we need a consensus from our council to do so. Stearns wanted this to be postponed too. Yeah. So we just need consensus.
I'm in.
Okay. John?
Oops.
Okay, we are split. Now what, Kathy?
Do we roll dice? I got dice.
Well, someone can make a motion, but knowing in advance that the motion is going to fail.
To,
Split 2-2.
so if we make a motion to postpone and it's failed, then we carry on?
Correct.
Okay.
And vice versa.
Okay. So I make a motion to continue agenda item 9 to the August 14th meeting.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
Opposed?
Opposed.
That was very... split. We will hear agenda item number 9 as stated. So Todd, yes. Todd and or Chief, please start her off.
Essentially, as the chief presented last time, that under the there is a dispute under the fourth agenda, or fourth amendment about whether or not chalking tires is a violation of those rights. And Councilman Stearns has provided some case law that some of it seems relevant, some of it isn't. I think in my professional opinion that chalking tires is not something that is going to put the city in jeopardy. The issue comes down to, in my mind, two things. One is right
Sorry,
now.
Todd, can we get his microphone turned up? I can barely hear him. Sorry.
Okay. Okay, is that better?
Much better.
Okay, so the issue isn't about whether or not we can chalk tires, I think. I don't think we're going to put the city in legal jeopardy. The question becomes, do we want to be in the position where we take police department resources and start enforcing 2-hour parking around the city and taking them away from all the other duties that they have when we're not getting complaints about, we're getting this one complaint about people overstaying their welcome. The petitioner and speaker at the last meeting mentioned that this is a neighbor that they've had long-standing issues with, and the suggestion was made, given this party's behavior, to seek a restraining order against them. And I hate the idea of the city being pulled into a civil matter and being used as a cudgel against a party that a private citizen is in a dispute with. And so, when frankly, part of this, I don't know if I want to say this, but we don't want to be in the position where we send the message to the public that if you repeatedly complain to the council and the city manager about civil matters, that will eventually acquiesce in some way in order to take sides in an issue. It's a bad form for government that serves all to take that position.
Chief, anything?
Yeah, so council gave a couple of ideas to staff at the last meeting. One of them was to get rid of the 2-hour parking, so we looked into that. The other one was the establishment of a possible handicap parking, so we looked into that, and I'll get to those in just a second. Just touching on what the city manager says is, we are controlled by the Ninth Circuit. That is true. We're talking a $55 ticket, and we're talking a Sixth Circuit that has the opposite ruling. So are we going to win in court legally? Yes, we're going to win in court legally, but we're going to have to pay to go to court for a $55 ticket in federal court for a Fourth Amendment violation. From what I've been researching is that the legal scholars are saying that this is going to the Supreme Court because they can't have two district courts with two completely different interpretations of what is reasonable under the Fourth Amendment. And then I concur with the city manager on his assessment of the situation. What I know back when I was a sergeant and we were marking tickets and tires downtown is we went from nobody complaining about 2-hour parking to numerous business owners complaining because they were the ones getting the tickets. So moving on to this situation, this area is outside of the downtown district as defined in our Mount Shasta Municipal Code 7.08.0210. It is only one of 2 areas in the entire city that is outside the business district that has a 2-hour parking limit. The second section is the 2-hour parking on Old McLeod, east of Rame for 75 feet. These are the only 2 areas outside the downtown business district that have 2-hour parking. And I could find no justification or reason in there for why these few spaces on that one side and the other side of the road were not. As far as the handicap space goes, it's not feasible. Ken went out and surveyed it, and then he went back out with his fancy new tool and re-surveyed it. That area has a 5 to 7% incline. The maximum allowable under ADA rules is 2%, which require in order to make a handicap parking accessible spot there, the city would have to bring the road up 12 inches. And that would require bringing everything up, and it's just financially not feasible. It would also eliminate all but 1 or 2 spots, because not only do you have the parking space, and you have to have the special section for the handicap van access. Then next to that, they have to have their own access to the sidewalk, which would be redesigning the sidewalk and providing a safe place for handicap accessible access to the sidewalk. Putting a handicap spot there would effectively eliminate all parking in that area. So I came back, so my recommendation is we can leave it, or city council can direct the staff to come back with an ordinance amendment to remove it from the 2-hour parking, since it's outside of the downtown zone.
Thank you. Yes.
Chief, in a nutshell, why do we have 2-hour parking in front of commercial retail establishments throughout the business district?
Well, in a nutshell, because city council said they wanted 2-hour parking, one of the things I thought of is that we're talking about this couplet and bringing more people into the downtown and bringing more people onto Castle Street parking and more people onto Chestnut and enhancing our downtown and wanting them to walk through the parks and stuff, but we're only going to give them a little bit of time to do it. And so maybe something council would like to come back and revisit. That was, because I don't have a good answer to why it's there.
I'm sorry, guys, I missed the last meeting when this was initially discussed. So my simple mind goes, we have 2-hour parking, so people don't park all day in front of commercial retail establishments where people are supposed to be coming and going. I don't think it's that complicated. And on Castle Street, on the south side, there are no commercial retail establishments. That's why there's no 2-hour parking on that side of it. There are 3 on the north side, which is why there is a 3 commercial retail establishments on the north side, which is why we have a 2-hour parking on that side. Now, pardon me, I missed lots of this discussion because I wasn't at the last meeting, but seems like things are kind of as they should be. I mean, am I missing something? Does that make any sense, or am I just missing something?
I'm not missing anything. Again, it was recommended to look into why there were 2-hour parking was there.
Okay.
And I don't have anything to come up that there is restricted parking at the center of Castle Street, but I believe it's 4 hours.
Okay. Thanks, Chief.
My question is that it says staff recommends that the 2-hour parking restriction be removed. Is that only on that section of Castle Street, or does that include Old McLeod as well, and not including the downtown district?
That was only for the that section, because I was only looking at where we were having the discussion. Okay. I'm leaving it up to council to, if they want to leave it the same, they can leave it the same. If they want us to revise it or take care of it, we will do that.
Okay, so for right now, it's only pertaining to that chunk on Chestnut. Okay.
Yes, I haven't had any complaints off the Ream Avenue one.
Okay.
All right, so I've got about 3 questions at least. So currently, we do not enforce, the city does not enforce 2-hour parking restrictions, correct? At all. The area that has 4-hour parking, you said the center of Castle Street, so you mean where Ace Hardware is?
Yeah, I can look it up again real fast.
It's definitely not on the block we're talking about.
It's not on the block, no. It was when I was researching it, I remember reading it, that it was that special on-street parking.
Okay,
center.
and so with respect to handicap parking, the city does not maintain handicap parking spots anywhere, correct? That I don't think so, that I know of.
So I can answer that. It's pretty rare to actually, to do a parallel ADA parking space requires you to build into the adjacent sidewalk enough of a platform that allows you to swing doors out on a van and allow you to load somebody into a wheelchair.
That's fine, but we just don't have any.
We don't.
I don't think we have any. So this would be a big precedent to actually start
This came up
maintaining handicap parking spaces.
Yeah.
And this one would be very special and very expensive to create. Okay, so I see why the recommendation not to bother with that.
Yeah.
On top of the fact we just haven't started doing that yet. So, fine. How about taking where the sign is now, which is on the second parking space, and saying from here to corner, 2-hour parking? That would be 2 parking spaces with 2-hour parking so you'd have to add a little sign there or change the sign. There's 2 signs, right? One sign is about alternate side of the street parking for street cleaning, which is weird in this town. It's a New York thing for sure, but we don't run the street sweepers from 12. We don't run them in the AM. They run in early AM, but not that early. So that sign, I guess, could stay. And then the sign below that is a 2-hour restriction. But it feels like it means from that second parking spot to the corner. That's how it presents itself. And clarification there might be a good compromise, is what I'm getting at. So it'd be 2 parking spots for those 2 retail outlets that need them, so to speak. They do have a problem in the front where there are no parking spots in front of the one business. So how about that as a compromise solution here, instead of totally eliminating?
And we can put up more signs.
It would be a change of the sign.
So for me, if we were making a compromise and we were starting in whatever way we're doing it, enforcing the 2-hour parking spots in one particular area, we've got to do it for the city.
We're not enforcing the parking. That's a given.
Okay.
So even if you change the sign, it's more of a recommendation to parkers to move in 2 hours like it is everywhere else. Mm-hmm. It's sort of a, hey, parking person, it's a 2-hour thing, please move, please be considerate. We're not enforcing it. I think everyone that lives here knows that. For people that visit, they would probably move. But just a potential compromise on that.
Yeah, I don't know the other party in this. My understanding is it's not likely they're going to be considerate. That's what I've heard from numerous sources. So I don't know if it will work, but we could. If that's what council wants us to do, we'll do it.
To the chair. Chief?
Yes, sir.
Quick question. How many parking spaces are in front of those 2 or 3 retail establishments on the north side of Castle Street?
I've got the answer for that. It's on Castle. It's 8 spots.
8 spots? Yeah. That
2
was my understanding, but I want to make sure. So there's 8 spots in front of those three places.
Right, and it's from the alley to Chestnut, and the one sign is located right around, I believe, the second or third, second parking space right there. So a simple sign put at the alley down saying no parking between these 2, or 2-hour parking between these 2 signs would be sufficient to let the people know they're parking up towards the alley, that is also a restricted area.
That's not going to be a compromise. So that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about taking the sign that is currently in place, saying from that point to the corner, from here to corner is 2-hour parking. So you only have, not the full 8, no. Yeah, and I actually don't think it's necessary to have all 8 like that on that street. But just making it clear that those 2 spaces are restricted to 2-hour parking. So it would just be a change of the one sign on that one post. You don't have to add another sign. You You don't have to sink another pole into the ground anywhere. Yeah, and I don't recommend going to 2-hour parking for that whole set. I don't think it's necessary, actually.
The question I would have then, would that require us to amend the ordinance as it reads now, where it provides from the alley, and just make it that 20, whatever the measurement would be, distance, or we would make an amendment saying it would be the 50 feet from that intersection versus the whole section? Because I think we would have to amend it.
Yeah, let's, I would assume so, but let's go to public comment and then we can come back unless anyone else has any questions before we do. Okay, we are open for public comment. Come on up. And thanks for coming back.
Yeah, I didn't know you were voting on this. I thought it was going to wait till Tim
The
Stearns got
continuance
back.
didn't pass, so that's why we're,
Okay.
yeah.
I have 78 signatures here of our customers that frequently have trouble parking on the street between Chestnut and the First Alley. Again, it's not a personal thing. I have always been professional and respectful with everything that I brought before the council here. Enforcing the 2-hour parking for those whole 8 parking spots is good for our businesses. People don't only park there for us, they park there for Ace, they park there for Crave Restaurant. If you limit it to 2 parking spots, that means the other 6 are going to be taken up by people that park there all day long. And that, in my business, I could have 2 or 3 people in there waiting in line. Debbie has people waiting. Over on Weston's, they have an issue with the 2-hour parking. I just hope that the city council would be respectful to our businesses. And 2 parking places is hardly any when you think of how many customers we have daily. As I say, 78 of our clients have signed this petition in the last 2 weeks, all stating that they constantly or very frequently have trouble finding a parking spot. And that is because, yes, the 2-hour parking is not enforced, but the people who live in the area, the people who work in the area, have been parking there when they could park on the other side of the alley where there is no restricted. They can park on the other side of the street where there is no restricted 2-hour parking. We are asking for those 8 parking spots to be left at 2-hour parking for our businesses, for the other businesses in the area, and just for the community. It's good for the community to have a place where they can come and park and go downtown and not have to fight any more than they already have to fight. Again, I mean, I just respectfully ask that you not take away the 2-hour parking, that it will interfere and deeply infect our businesses that are in that area with the 2-hour parking, and those surrounding us as well. I guess we're kind of going to battle for everyone. And it has become more of an issue since I moved there because I bring in more business than the person who was there prior to me. So that is kind of why it has become an issue right now.
Thank you.
To the chair, can I
Yes.
ask a question?
Sure.
Can I ask you to come back for just a sec, just to ask a question? The simple question is, I want to make sure I understand what you want. You're asking for those 8 parking spaces that are 2-hour limited at the moment to stay that way,
Yes,
which is the way they already are.
yes.
And so you are before us because you'd like what to change?
Well, ideally, what I would like to change is the people at Ace Hardware that go to work and leave their car there all day long. People in the neighborhood who live there and park their car in those 2-hour parking spots for more than 24 hours. For other business owners that park there for more than 2 hours all day long.
So what you're asking us is leave the 8 parking spots at 2 hours and enforce it.
Exactly. And I understand there is a unresolved issue in the Ninth Circuit Court regarding chalking tires. But I feel if you take away those, if you leave 2 and take away 6, are we going to get those 6 parking slots back when the issue could be resolved with the Ninth Circuit and you can start marking tires again?
Gotcha. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Hi.
I'm Debbie Castro. I own Main Event Salon.
Oh, sorry. All right, there you go.
They give you a very short time. Very.
Bye.
Right.
Well, you know, people like to park when they come bound down through there, and they like to park their trailer down there, like a truck with the dump truck or something out back there, and they just sit it down and they take up 4 or 5 parking spaces. I don't think that's fair myself. You know, we got people coming and going all day long, and since she said, like the last meeting, we've got several people from the Ace Hardware and behind us, and they're parking right out front. We didn't ask for a handicapped. Our customers can make it, but some of them are old and they are on oxygen, so they can't walk that far anyway. So I don't see a handicapped helping. I don't know if this makes sense to you, but it's just nuts. Sometimes I go out there and there was a guy one time, he parked his horse trailer / living trailer there, and he dropped it there and left for about 8 hours, and it's sitting right out in front. I just don't know what we can do to help that along, you know. We're not really getting the support, I feel. And I'm not here just to cause trouble. I would like, you know, something done so it will help us out. Thank you.
Thank you. Can I have her last 2 minutes? Sorry. Anyone else from the audience wish to speak? Anyone online wish to speak? No. All right. We will close public comment and bring it back to council for discussion.
To the chair?
Yes.
Again, pardon me for, because I missed a lot of the commentary on the last meeting, but we're not enforcing 2-hour parking anywhere in the city. And chalking or no chalking, which is borderline irrelevant, we don't enforce 2-hour parking anywhere. We're not going to start. They're not going to divert resources from, there's like one person on duty during the day. We don't have the manpower to do it. Do I think we ought to reduce the number of 2-hour parking spaces from 8 down to 2? No, I don't think so. I think you just leave it alone. It's one of those, hear ya, not much we can do. I don't think it should be reduced down from 8 down to 2. I don't know that it's going to make much difference one way or another, but honestly, I mean, in the real world, because we don't enforce it, you know, I think path of least resistance, just leave it where it is. Just leave it alone. But that's just me. Please.
Oh, I would tend to agree with you, but the authorities on the matter, both from the standpoint of expertise and outright enforcement, think in this case it would be best just to eliminate the 2-hour parking in that area. So that's what your recommendation was, Chief. That's where I am.
Okay.
It ends the dispute
And
outright.
And the basis of that recommendation, again, just so I understand, is because it's outside of the downtown business district. We are in the downtown. Well, I'm sorry.
So yeah, so at the end of last council meeting, it was suggested what is look in the feasibility of taking away the downtown or the 2-hour parking. And when I looked at it and looked at the boundaries of the downtown neighborhood as defined in our municipal code, that parking area and the parking area on Ream were not in the downtown. Everything else is in the downtown parking area. If I may, real quick, if people are parked with trailers and they're taking up multiple spots across them, that's illegal parking. You call us and we will come tell them and take them away.
Chief, are you recommending that we eliminate 2-hour parking on those 8 parking spots on the north side of Castle Street?
Yeah, that's not in the downtown district. But however, if council wants to leave them, we can leave them. I'm just going to go with.
And again, I apologize because I wasn't here. Is the sum total of the rationale to eliminate those parking spaces from 2-hour down to just general parking because it's outside of our defined business district?
Yeah, the rationale was because it's only one side of the street. There's a business on the other side of the street, the Dream Inn, that does not have any special parking for their business. So we literally have made one small 8 parking space section on one side of a street outside the zone, with this other side of the street has no restriction even up to the alley, even though there's businesses right there. So that was my justification.
There are no retail businesses on that side of the street. There's no retail business on the south side of the street. There is on the north side of the street, which is why they've got 8 parking spots in front of them. I think that's, I'm kind of.
Well, it's a bed and breakfast. It's an inn. They need parking spaces too, and there's been no accommodation for them.
Yeah, it sounds like it's for consistency's sake.
The block that you're on,
The entire street.
from Pepsi to Dream Inn,
From all the way from Bistro 107 all the way down Chestnut is just unlimited parking. You can stay there all day. Just this weekend, I had a car
And that is
camped
the
out in
business
front of my
district.
place for 6 days.
that is the business district.
Yes, just
So the point is, there's inconsistency within the business district with respect to restricted parking hours, time. And then we have a special restriction on Castle, which is technically outside the business district by a little bit. And then this place on Old McLeod. So, yeah.
Can I add something to this? This isn't very popular, but I'm gonna say it. The first thing is, if we keep the spaces the way they are, and they're not enforced, if it's as if they aren't there in the first place. The second is that, while I am truly sympathetic to the situation and the clientele, these are public streets, and to make accommodations to ensure that you can park right in front of a particular business is just not something cities do.
No, they're still open.
Sorry, the public comments closed, sorry. Yeah, my point of view is that I like consistency, fairness, so it would be my recommendation to keep the 2-hour parking within the business district, eliminate it without until we have further. Go ahead. Until we're able to enforce something at a further date.
I just missed eliminate.
Eliminate the 2-hour parking outside of the downtown.
All right, so
That would be my
I'm going to move to have council recommend to staff to amend code regarding parking spaces on East Castle Street, currently under discussion, and on Old McLeod between Ream and Mount Shasta Boulevard on the south side, to be consistent. Bring that to, so that's going to be a code change, so it'll require 2 hearings, right? 2 readings. If it's approved here right now.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed?
Opposed.
Okay, passes 3-1. All right, we're at 6:40 with a little bit to go. Let's take a 10-minute recess. All right, we are back in session. Moving on to agenda item number 10, approving ballot argument for Measure S, transient occupancy tax measure. Todd.
What's been proposed by council is a 2% increase in TOT taxes, which would net the city approximately $245,000 a year. It's a general tax, meaning that we need we need a majority of the votes. What we can't do as a body is go out in the community and advocate for this, but clearly, since council is behind putting this measure on the ballot, there's a certain form that we need to take to submit to the county election clerk. And there were a number of arguments for, and I'll go through those, but essentially, it's pretty restrictive. The election clerk will pick one argument and that's it, and put it on there. Now, I don't want to be in the position where we're just talking about the pros, which I'm going to talk about in a second, but I also want to make sure that people understand the cons from parts of our community. So what I've got so far, and if you want to change these pros, let me know. Raising TOT is a fair way to recover increased impacts and costs associated with visitors staying in Mount Shasta. The measure will not raise taxes for residents. The city's TOT rate has not been adjusted since 1995. And the measure keeps our tourism industry competitive while addressing its impacts. Now, the cons that I have so far, and for the people that it impacts, they're legitimate. A higher TOT could make Mount Shasta less attractive to visitors and tourists. This increase in the TOT will shift the tax burden to the hospitality and tourism industry, and the increase could shift traveler visits to nearby cities of Weed and Dunsmuir. Now, there's a form, as I mentioned, that's very specific that we've got to fill out, and we need to sign and get it into the election clerk before August 1st. What I would suggest, we spoke a little bit earlier that Heaton Patel and I sat down and talked for a while, he's talked about signing on the cons. We need to have him file directly with the County Board of Elections and get his con registered. And by getting your con or your pro registered, what that does is when the time comes and people write up their justifications, because you can write up something longer, is once your name is in the hat as somebody on the pro, somebody in the con, you'll be contacted by the election clerk to submit a rebuttal to any of the other arguments that you think are unfair. And so if you are somebody that is for or against this measure, you want to be on there so you're able to rebut arguments that you disagree with. So that's it in a nutshell. The gist is, since this body, we have a maximum of 5 signatures, so we need 5 council member signatures if they so choose for the pro, and anybody in the community that would like to sign on to the con. I've got county election guidelines that I can send, and they're also available from the county election clerk, and it would behoove these folks to make sure their voice is heard.
Thank you. Any questions?
Yeah, just real quick, do we know what the Weed and Dunsmuir TOTs are at compared to us when we say they might
Weed and
force them that
Dunsmuir's
way?
TOTs are both at 10%.
They're over 10? And what is ours currently?
We're at 12%. We've been there since 95.
Okay, so we're at 12 and they're at 10?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
What's that?
Wait, we're at 10 or we're 12?
I'm sorry, we're at 10.
Oh,
Trying
we're
to
at
move
10.
to 12.
And
Yes.
both of them are at 10?
Yes.
Okay,
correct.
gotcha, okay.
Any other questions? All right, opening up to public comment. Anyone wish to speak on this agenda item? Anyone online?
No hands are raised.
All right, closing public comment. Back to council for discussion or motion.
Okay, so the worry about volume decreasing due to this tax increase is already, that experiment's already been played out with the Mount Shasta Resort and their chalets, and the Lake Siskiyou Resort with their campgrounds and cabins, campground spots for various types of camping, including RVs and so forth. I believe there's TOT on all those. I'm not sure, but on the cabins, there definitely is. There's been no change in volume since the county increased their rate from 10 to 12%. So I know some of the innkeepers are worried about a decrease in volume. I'm not, and that's from experience, direct experience. So there you have it. Yeah. Okay, so I will move to approve submittal of argument in support of measure 5 or S? S. For a 2% increase in the transient occupancy tax, also known as overnight stay tax.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 All opposed? Passes 4-0. Moving on to agenda item number 11, discussion possible action short-term rental management software purchase. Will Muriel be joining us online? Okay, great. Hello, Muriel. Begin whenever you're ready.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Before you tonight is a request for the City of Mount Shasta to actually change our short-term rental vendors from Granicus host compliance to another vendor. There are several reasons for wanting the change. We've had a number of issues with Granicus in the timeliness of their service in order to, actually find people who are illegally operating and to notify them with letters and all the other things that go along with that. We have looked at numerous different companies, and the one that really stood out for us was the GovOS platform. It will mean much less staff time in having to deal with some of the issues that come up with short-term rentals. And we wanted to bring this before you as it is a hit to the budget. However, we want to be more efficient in how we're dealing with short-term rentals and make sure that people are in compliance and that we're operating efficiently.
Thank you. One question is how much of a difference the hosting fee would be between GovOS and our current Granicus, and if there's a ballpark figure you can put on the wage of the staff that we would make up. Okay.
It's an $8,000 hit. The amount of time for staff it'd be a huge ballpark. It would be at least that much.
Okay. So, yeah, more than likely maybe a wash.
Yes.
Okay. Any other questions?
Yes, Muriel, it's John Stack here. So
Hi.
from reading your material on this, it sounds like, just confirm this, it sounds like you think the recommended group will be much better at stopping illegal short-term rentals and much better at helping to collect TOT on the short-term rentals that actually get away with it for a short while and the legitimate short-term rentals. So overall, maybe help quite a bit with collecting some monies.
Correct, and their software is much more robust in determining the locations. They have some really interesting software to be able to target the actual locations of properties and to then get the letters and the notifications out for people who aren't operating correctly. Also, they do projections of the amount of revenue that should be collected given the number of stays in a particular place, given their rates, and they're able to then determine what they should be giving the city in TOT, and we're able then to discover and go out and audit to see then if people are actually underreporting and underpaying.
Any other questions? All right, we'll open up to public comment. Anyone in the audience wish to speak on this item? Anyone online? And closing public comment, back to council for discussion or motion.
So I just wanted to preach a little bit here. It's been a question in my mind as to the effectiveness of Granicus, and I think those questions have been answered by Muriel in this presentation. So I'm not going to delve into that at all. My hope is that this new group will do what she's talking about, which is track down very thoroughly those that are illegally operating SDRs, which is going to be an issue. Just because they're illegally operating doesn't mean you don't collect the tax and forward it to the city. So that's, another issue that hopefully that will be resolved. And then with everyone else that is operating legally, they'll be more helpful and efficient to the city. Part of the reason does anyone know if we've sold out our short-term rental licenses off the top of the head?
I believe that we issued our last one. I signed the last one last week. That I'm 95% sure.
Yeah, whatever, close to sold out. So
very close.
But one of the things we wanted to do was hopefully with this somewhat serious regulation of this industry, convince people to go to long-term rentals with their properties. And I have one example where that actually happened. It's one of my neighbors. So they're going to go from a short-term. They gave up their license. Going to be a long-term rental. So yeah, it is. Yeah, let's keep it quiet. So, but anyhow, that's it.
It does seem clear that the response times and the problems resulting in poor response times from Granicus point to we need to make a change.
To the chair, I've heard both sides of this semi-bar with people saying that they play by the rules, they need to rein in those who don't, and those who don't have come up to me asking how serious we are in collecting, and I've told them we're coming after them as a city, so now this will make it even kind of an FAFO kind of thing for them.
So one last thing before I make a motion. So ultimately, this group that will approve to manage our short-term rentals, they go through the paperwork of trying to enforce our regulations. But when it comes down to it, do we have to go to our code enforcement person to actually sometimes visit the place? Because I've heard that's happened in the past, actually.
That's true.
Okay.
Jumping in, that's part of why we have code compliance. All of these short-term rentals are being visited by code and compliance as well as the fire department, and they're having to meet the fire department's requirements as well as any code enforcement type things, so that they're up to the standards that they need to be up to.
But, to add to that, though, in some of those cases, the reason they were caught, it wasn't because of Granicus, it's because the code enforcement happens to travel those streets, and they saw the turnover in the number of vehicles overnight and realized, from talking to the folks up front, that we're not getting anything in TOT. And, so it's, that's what we're stuck with, and it's, believe me, we're not doing a great job. Granicus isn't that way.
Well, hopefully this will improve
Yes.
that, right? Okay, so I will motion to approve, and I will motion to award a contract for professional services to perform short-term rental management to GovOS.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 All opposed? Passes 4-0.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Muriel.
Thank you, Muriel.
Good.
All right, agenda item number 12, TRC contract amendment. Todd?
So we're back with TRC with a potential fourth amendment. We are looking for a not-to-exceed amount of $80,000. Hopefully we'll get nowhere near that. Part of this is to pay where they're standing now up to date with $14,500 in overages, and the rest is to provide, planning services with the next agenda item. If that's approved, it will be, the only use for TRC will be to cover the gap until a person is hired and to occasionally answer questions to get that person up to speed.
Thank you. Any questions?
To the chair?
Yeah.
City Manager, seeing as how the next agenda item is to approve a salary to hire a new planner.
Yes.
Does that change your perspective on the numbers that are involved in this expansion of the contract?
Yeah, very much. It could. The idea here is if we pass a not to exceed amount, it lessens if we need to come back for some reason. But if the next agenda item passes, as I mentioned, it's getting covering the gap until that person can start and answering questions until they're up to speed. But this person is extremely qualified, and I don't expect a lot of those. So if it was lowered, it could be. This is just hedging our bets that everything caves in, which I don't see happening.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? All right, opening up to public comment. Anyone in the audience wish to speak on this item? Anyone online? Closing public comment, back for discussion or motion.
Go ahead, I can't.
Okay. I'll move to approve an amendment to TRC Solutions contract with the city to allow for additional funds to complete consultant planning work as needed until a planning manager is recruited.
Second.
All those approved?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Passes 4-0. All right, agenda item 13, salary increase for planning director. Todd?
Okay, so I don't want to get prematurely excited about this, but we have been without a planner for quite a while. We went through a set of planning interviews. There was one gentleman who's down in Calistoga, very expensive district, being paid a lot of money. And we couldn't meet. He knew what our salary was and tried to work with them to see if he could make this work. And at the moment, he couldn't. I can't say enough about how he did on the interview process. Not only could he answer the most arcane questions, he could cite the section of law that it came from on the spot. He's done economic development. He's also a registered architect. He has worked at a very high level, and a lot of the people that I know that are directors up in Portland that I know personally know him, and we were up, and I don't know how we never met, but they speak glowingly about him. He's called me. His situation has got untenable down there, and so he's willing to come down this way if we can meet him, not even halfway, to meet him where our Public Works Director is currently being paid. And this is not to take away from the very talented planners that we have up here, but I don't see a more qualified and experienced planner north of Sacramento as this guy.
Thank you. Any questions? All right, we'll open up for public comment, and then when the audience wish to speak on this item, anyone online? Closing public comment, back for discussion or motion.
I haven't seen Todd get this excited in a long time.
You don't even know. After this conversation on Friday night, usually I go home and think about tying a noose just in case. On Friday night, it was just like this would just benefit the city tremendously and would take so much work off my plate and could extend the kind of stuff that I can do, including with this gentleman.
Well, just a brief, this will be short, I promise. Because this gentleman's not just a planner, is also an economic development person, and also has the ability to take a lot of the CEQA case issues and other traditional planning and or economic development elements off of Todd's plate. And any time we can attract what is arguably one of the best planners in the northern half of the state to our town, I think the answer is, oh, hell yes. Excuse my, I'm not quite sure what language that is. Thank you.
Enthusiasm.
Enthusiasm, yeah.
Are we able to set up a fake email for him so that people send all the bothersome emails to something that doesn't tie him down? With all the constant...
I think public records law would, would seriously frown on that, but it's something that I'm sure a lot of people would think about as a good idea.
Okay, so I'm going to move to approve to raise the salary for a planning director to be on par with the Public Works Director's salary of $120,000 per year, plus a one-time not to exceed relocation allowance of $7,500.
Second.
All approved?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Passes 4-0. All right. Agenda item should be 14. No outside meetings. Moving on to should be 15 future agenda items and meetings appearing on the agenda within 60 to 90 days. A, vacation of Field Street, 8/14/23. B, discussion and possible action, McLeod Avenue parking prohibition to be determined. C, discussion and possible action regarding the Active Transportation Committee to be determined. Future agenda items over 90 days, discussion and possible action, review of Chapter 13.95, extraction and exportation of groundwater from the city of Mount Shasta. I would like to add agenda item to the next meeting if there is room to have what Amanda Berryhill came here to present, which is to vote on whether the city wants to implement the minimum floor price for retailers in regards to tobacco products within city limits.
Oh, got it.
Any other future agenda items?
And Field Street will be back on the 14th.
And Field Street will
Yep.
be back? Okay. Going once, going twice? Yep.
Sorry, where are we at with the McLeod parking?
It's tied up with the Public Works project. It's kind of been lumped into the two. What's been going on with it, for lack of a better word, is there's no agreement on the surveys of how wide that right-of-way should be. Where it was really platted, it showed that we've got a much wider right-of-way that's ours than the roadway itself, so it would end up in people's yards. So we're trying to figure out exactly what truly is ours and what are we working with. So it's been interesting. Working on it.
Any other items? All right, we are adjourned.